Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Well, this is our third night of Dharma discussion, Dharma Talk, and Dharma encouragement. And it's been the last one because tomorrow we are going to have a completely silent day of practice. No chanting ceremonies, just sitting in silence. We did this last year and people thought how wonderful it was that we weren't talking at all for one day, and it was very excellent. So we're going to do that again tomorrow. I must say that when I was thinking about Sesshin this year, quite typically I would find some piece of text that I would speak from or a theme of some kind. And try as I may, I was not able to find one. Even though I went to all kinds of sources, I didn't find one that I thought was right. And so we've had the discussions that we've had, the talks that we've had, and somehow they felt right for where we are in our sesshin. And tonight I feel a similar kind of thing. That there are two things that I feel are really difficult and perhaps detrimental to practice and maybe even to one's life. And those two things are resistance and anxiety. And I feel that they're quite related. And I know that I've got some psychologists here and counselors here in the midst of all this, and you may disagree, but I feel that they're quite related. I know that in the past, I've encouraged many of you to read The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. It's a short little book, but Pressfield, after much personal angst in his life, came to feel that resistance was embedded in everything, in everyone. And I found it akin to Shakyamuni Buddha's discovery about suffering. Because as I thought about that, as I read the book, I really agreed, and I quoted him online once and emailed and asked permission to quote him, and consequently he sent us 10 books. He was so happy that people were reading his books. He's a very well-known, famous author who, has had books on the bestseller list. But this discovery of his about resistance is that resistance is everything. That we resist just anything that you can name has resistance built into it. And we certainly hinder our own progress in the Dharma or in life, in our expression, in our art, in whatever undertaking we choose. When resistance is there, we hinder the open quality of the mind and the heart and the body. And certainly in practice, when we resist being on the cushion even, or we resist anything that is part of what we do in a sesshin, it's painful to us. It's a painful kind of thing. And to truly come to that openness where we don't resist something is profound work in one's life. Not easy, but I also feel necessary to one's health in the Dharma, one's health in practice, one's health in life. I don't think it means that you just do anything just because somebody suggests you do it, or, at home, in your home relationships, that you don't sometimes resist something that you think is improper or not healthy or not good. Of course, those things, those times occur, and those are important. But the general resistance is difficult. I think I have mentioned to you my own resistance at times about the morning, getting up in the morning, getting up in the dark to sit zazen, to sit in the cold, and to come from the warm bed and to change into clothes in the cold, and to come down to zazen. And of course, I don't have very far to have to travel, but the warm bed is so compelling. And any resistance that occurs makes it so painful to all the rest of it is painful. And so the best mornings are when one just gets up because the bell rings and we just get up. Something like when the drum rings this afternoon for work period. It thudded in my heart, that drum, when it was struck with such great sound. It just said, do it. So hard on the drum that I could hear it way back far in my apartment. And it just says, do it, just do it. And it was quite compelling and very exciting to me, because I had been saying that that's what the drum means. We've been talking about that, and that we strike the drum to tell everybody, get here, come, because this is work period, and work needs to be done, and we need to go for it, and we need to go forth. And that's what the meaning of that drum is when you play that for work period. And, typically in a big temple, the drum is, the face of the drum is this big. And when you hit that, of course, I can't hit it very hard, but when it's struck, it's just the whole building rumbles with the sound of the drum. I wish we could have a taiko here, taiko drum. We could get a kettle drum. No. Yeah, right. But it's compelling, and there's no thought that happens, and there's no resistance to the hit of that drum in the mind and body of practice. It just compels us to join in and go forth. And that kind of action is so happy and glorious, because once again, there wasn't any sense of resistance. Oh dear, it's time again to get down there. There's nothing like that. It's just pure action. And mostly we want that same kind of pure action in our daily lives, in daily life, in how we cooperate with our partners at home or family, and even if we cooperate with ourselves. Because we're in relationship to everything. And so maybe it's time to go to paint, and one doesn't feel like painting today. It's no ideas in the mind, there's no nothing. And so we say, well, maybe I'll have a cup of coffee first. Oh, maybe I'll look out the window for a while and maybe something will occur to me. And we know that the only way to get it started is actually to pick up the brush and begin to paint. And so that resistance, and once that is begun, ideas come. Once that motion is made without resistance, the muse is there to flourish ideas upon you and to burden you with more ideas than you can possibly fulfill in a lifetime. And that's really because of no resistance. To understand that relationship that partnership in action for those who practice some art. That relationship is so deeply important. I said to somebody recently that practice and art are my partners. Of course, I had been married, but afterwards, I never married again, although I certainly spent time thinking about a partner if only one could be found, but none got found. But I realized that that's not who I was anyway, that practice and art are my partners. But I also admitted that I'm not always a very good partner. I'm not always a very good partner in that relationship. I can resist painting as well as the rest. And it's detrimental to my own love of doing it. And then there's anxiety. And it seems to me that these are related in that anxiety comes right on the heels of that. When we resist something, we have anxiety about the not doing of it, or how we might perform, or what's ahead, or how we will be. And anxiety is extremely detrimental to the free, open doing of practice. Now, I admit I have had not lots of anxiety in my life, mostly. Not that I don't have some, I do, but I think that I grew up in a house where we performed for one another. And then I did a great deal of theater work as a young person. And it was one of those things where you could not play a role in a play and go on stage if you were buried in anxiety about it. You had to be able to overcome it, to recognize it and go forth. And in some ways, what we do with the forms in practice are similar in that we aren't doing art performance, or we aren't doing theater performance, even though there is a certain drama to our ceremonies and a certain amount of performance in the ceremonies, but they are not about me at all, ever. Even on stage, it's never about me or the actor. It's never about the person of the actor. And in our Zen practice, we are empty of concern for how we are, how we look. Go to Roshi, my training master would always say, never care how you look. Do not care how you look. And what he was meaning is, don't act with pretense in your practice. You are doing and being the Buddha in the action of every possible form that we take up in Zen practice. It is not about you. It's not even you. There's no one there. But somehow we complete the activity, and this comes about through our training. We gain confidence in training, get confidence in the forms, and then we can have the great experience of nobody there, just the beauty of that action. anxiety, I know that there are many deep levels of it that I cannot personally appreciate, I think, but I do know that it's detrimental to life and to practice. It's a great hindrance, and a great hindrance to just the joy of one's life, the ability to take something new and just do it, just go for it. So our practice is very much about dropping that off, because much of it is ego related. How will I look? Will I be okay? Am I perfect enough? Will people look at me and know that I made a mistake? And all of these things come into one's thoughts. And they're detrimental to the simple doing of something, putting aside oneself, putting aside the ego, and remembering that we are all Buddha, and that simply carrying out the expression of Buddha. So you're not there. I'm not there. It's just we're doing what we've been asked to do. So we often resist training or resist doing something because of those anxieties. They're so connected. But we cannot go forward in practice with openness if we are resistant and if we carry too much anxiety. It has to be looked at. It has to be seen. The ego has to be seen through. And, so it isn't as though the ego goes away forever. It shows up because it's persistent and has been such a part of us for such a long time. But it's no longer a problem at some point. And if resistance and anxiety come up, we just look at it and understand it for what it is. Nothing. It's nothing. And at some point, we have to go beyond the teacher and not look to the teacher for to suggest that you're okay or we're okay. At some point, we have to get confidence and just go for the action. Just go for that. And the important point about that is that one's deep intention to participate in the forms of awakening, which we do. This is what our Zen practice is, the forms of awakening. To wholly do those with a deep intention, one can never make a mistake. Because if anybody else is looking at us in that way, they are not looking at the Buddha. They are making a mistake in how they view you. So the only mistakes we can make in practice are not to try, not to go forward. maybe you have some questions tonight.
So when we sit and there's physical pain, how long should we sit with that?
You should not allow yourself to be injured. That's all.
But if you know it's not going to cause injury, but it's still extremely painful.
You have a choice. You can sit with the pain or you can move. It's when you have no alternative that it's really painful.
Okay. Well, it feels like, I mean, there's resistance there, but it feels like there's some usefulness to that resistance.
I'm not sure that that's the same resistance that
Okay.
I'm talking about. I think that is you're listening to the body and understanding whether that is useful to you or not. That pain, is that pain useful to you? Is it teaching you something? So I don't see that so much as resistance. But what you should not do is allow yourself to become injured. And there's quite a difference in sitting in the body between the discomfort that arises and injury. And you know the difference. Your body knows the difference. I mean, most of the pain that we sit with is gone in about 2 minutes after we get off the cushion. So, but one always has a choice, and you have to know that that choice is there for you, depending upon what zendo you sit in. I've certainly sat in zendos where you could not move. And I do not agree with that.
Thank you.
Well, because injury is so possible. Injury, your knees are essential to your life, to your walking and standing and work life. And so or your back, any parts of your body, they're important to all of that. So once those are injured, you have a long time to get back. If for some people never do. So you want to maintain your body for your whole life in the best possible way. And this is one of the reasons that we do these exercises during Rohatsu Sesshin. There are stretching exercises that we do. One period of zazen is given to this. And we do it in order to listen to the points of resistance in the body and to understand what those are and to be able to move them and work them out. And in so doing, we sit better because we have moved those points of resistance. And so your hips begin to open and you are able to sit better. Your back is better, your neck and your shoulders, all of it. So, and moving very slowly, we find those points of resistance. I mean, resistance is natural to the body. I mean, we are not owls, so we don't spin our head all the way around. There's points of resistance in the body. The knees all have points at which they stop. And so to find where those are is why we do that, and to stretch out those parts that assist us in zazen. Might be questions from those online. Brian, Larry, and Angelina. And Mickey. Mickey's face is not there, but Yes.
Well, I just had a remark to make because it's been on my mind during this session, that I appreciate people who are just learning the practice of the Han and Doan and timekeeping, because it's such an important entryway into practice. And I just wanted to encourage everyone who's doing that to just strike with intention and don't worry about making a mistake. Like you said, we can't make a mistake. So if you're gonna make a quote mistake, make a big one. Don't make a little one. Make a big
Exactly,
one.
exactly. Well, I will tell you a story of, so I was up at a mountain temple because I practiced with Koben for 13 years and had not learned anything. I resisted terribly. And I was just terrified to ring bells. And so I'm up at this mountain temple, and this priest assumes that since I've practiced for 13 years, of course I know how to ring the bells to be dawn. These are big bells. These are big, So I didn't know what to do. So I just would ring them, and then I think, okay. And he was aghast. We somehow got through that ceremony. I have no idea how we did it. I just did something. And the thing that was so funny, it was horrible. I was horribly embarrassed, of course, that I did not know what I was doing. And the thing was that the priest, there was a visiting priest at the temple also, and he was in a back room listening to all of this. And then after the ceremony, I went back, to apologize to the priests, to say, I'm so sorry. And the two of them were saying, my God, what is she doing? So, anyway, but the most important thing, and I've told this story before, the most important thing was the next ceremony, I ran over to the Doan position as fast as I could, still not knowing what I was going to do. But I put myself in that position again to say, okay, I will not turn from this. And he came into the sendo and he said, oh, we're not doing ceremony this morning. But that was the important thing, is that I put myself back there. I did not turn away from that practice, no matter how horrible that experience had been. And that is what we have to learn to do, is to go straight to it again, not turn away, not resist it, and not, feel the horrible anxiety of what it might be like the second time around. We have to do it. We have to go for it so that we don't disappoint our own selves, so that we don't shame ourselves either. We just say, yeah, I did that. Now I'm going to go for it again. That's what, you sort of look at the teacher and say, well, what do you got? Yeah, so thank you for saying that, Jikyo, because it's in these long sessions, these long retreats, that we are able to, bring people along and give them the opportunity to train in this way. And it's very important. We will have a Han tomorrow, even though we are silent in other musical spheres. But so, any other questions? Anybody? Yes.
Just wanted to say that I find it, that anxiety is just deeply connected with resistance, and that the anxiety that you might have that causes the resistance, once you're resisting, there's an added anxiety about this going back and forth. Should I or should I not? What,
Yeah.
and you usually know what you need to do.
Yeah.
You know what you need to do.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's like adding even more to
Right, these
more
layers,
suffering, yeah.
Yeah. right. And it's so painful.
Mhm.
It's extremely painful because one has pulled oneself away from the circle of community, in a sense, the expression of the community. And so it's painful. You sort of become terribly alone.
I think I was worried about that when I was I was facing extreme resistance going down to this retreat.
Speak
Just-
loud enough, so can you hear him speaking, everybody? Yeah, okay, but speak loud enough, so,
Yeah.
yes, go ahead, Brad.
I'm trying to.
You're gonna come. Oh, hold it, hold it. Now it's back on, it's okay, I think. Just touch it up there, it goes off. Okay, go ahead. Now, you were talking about coming down.
Yeah, facing great resistance coming down to this retreat, having gone through COVID, having entered a new phase in my life, professionally, spiritually, emotionally, etc. And hemming and hawing,
Hemming and hawing.
hemming and hawing, as it were. And I had to face it because that exact question of like shame came up. Like, would I be able to live with myself if I like avoided the retreat? You could just felt gross or corrosive maybe.
Mhm.
Just gotta go like sign up. Okay, you're gonna do it, and then it's like, okay, well, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And it's less of a thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, well, you're here, Brad.
I am, and concurrent with those personal developments in my life, it's also a time where I have felt no other place than here, more so than ever. I mean, yeah, I'm gonna go back to my life, but it's not really there right now, as it is,
Yeah. Right.
It's funny to me that every time or 99% of the time when I've resisted and felt anxious and just beside myself because I didn't want to do something, and then doing it, and it's like, what was the big deal in the first place? But even with that reflection, the next time it comes around, it's the same anxiety, the same resistance. You do it. Oh, what was the big deal? And this whole cycle just, how do you break it?
Well, you keep looking at the resistance.
Yeah.
And you go forward and understand. Well, did you read the War of Art?
I have read it. Yeah.
Yeah, read it again.
Yeah.
Read it again. I think maybe it's a yearly read.
Okay.
It's awful to read in some sense because you see it everywhere.
Mhm, mhm.
You see it in everything. And it is in opposition to Dogen Zenji's teaching about exertion. Because actually, all of life is in exertion. All of life is in the expression of Buddha nature, which is the exertion of the moving forward. Everything in existence is in motion. Everything. Your hair is going to grow after you die. For 3 days, your hair will grow. And then your body is going to be in motion as it disintegrates. So everything is exerting in its expression of Buddha nature. There's no such thing as no exertion. So it's in opposition to the resistance that we place upon particular things. Yes, we have that 3 day, when somebody dies, it's, as in many cultures, 3 days, the body is on display for someone to make bring closure. But then in the ceremony of funeral, there's the shaving of the head, because, if you look at the body, a man's beard will grow, his hair is going to continue to grow. So the head is shaved before the cremation. And that's a part of the, part of a monk's life then, that, it's your last shaving, part of the ceremony of funeral. Everything is changing constantly. So, all right. So we too will change now from this, and we will close the talk tonight. Beings are numberless, I vow to save them. Delusions are inexhaustible, I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless, I vow to enter them. Buddha's ways unsurpassed, I vow to become his.